Okay, so we are here for part 2 of The Between, the Limehouse Lurker. Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, anything else you'd like for us to know about you, and who are you playing tonight as well. I'll start though. My name is Jason. I am the creator of The Between, as well as its sister game, Brindlewood Bay. And and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm very excited to see how this vampire shenanigan shakes out. Mads.
Hi, I'm Madeline Colley, Mads for short. I use she, they pronouns. I appear a lot on actual plays on Jason Cordova's channel on YouTube, and I also have a podcast Stories from Chaos Edge, as well as a YouTube channel under Madeline Colley, and I can also be found on Twitter as Madeline Colley as well. So I'm very excited to see how this ends.
Who are you playing tonight?
Oh, I am playing Helena Bairn, the vessel.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Judd.
Hey, I am Judd, and I have just subscribed to the Stories from Chaos Edge podcast on my phone, my podcatcher. So that's cool. Judd, he, him. I am playing Mr. Dryden. I've got a podcast and a blog. The easiest way is just to go to the blog, and you'll find the links for all the other stuff. It's Gith Yankee Diaspora, and you'll find me. You'll find me there and my stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Amanda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda. My pronouns are she, her. I'm mostly just kind of around on the internet and Discord and TTRPGs and poking my nose into everybody's business. So you might see me in various games. I am playing Dr. Penelope Pendleton, the mother. And last time I got some eyes. We'll see what I get this time.
All right. So let's go ahead and do a recap of what happened last time. So Hargrave House, which is the house/organization you all work in and for, had some case brought to it. Jenny Johnston, who is a leader of the local Chinese immigrant community in Limehouse, as well as the owner of an opium den, she came to you explaining that she had 3 bodies in her basement. All 3 bodies had been drained of their blood, and details in her story led you to believe that, one, it's a vampire. Hargrave House has dealt with vampires. But importantly, too, it's a wee vampire, a vampire that is a child, or at least in the body of a child. And so you had this sort of threshold question to deal with in this investigation, which is this vampire actually a recently turned child, or is it an ancient creature just in the body of a child? And you determined that it is, in fact, an ancient vampire, and so, or at least an old vampire. And so you now have a new question, which will help you resolve this threat if you answer it, which is, where is this vampire's nest? If you successfully answer this question, you get the opportunity to resolve the threat by infiltrating the nest and either destroying the vampire or convincing it to leave London. And so that is sort of what's we're going to be doing today. You have 1 clue currently on a complexity 4. That clue is that the sailor who was killed in a really messy way, which is an interesting detail, because you would think that an older vampire would be real clean about it, but maybe there's something else going on. And it's also a really interesting clue because you're going to have to think about how that might point to where the vampire can be found. And so think on that a bit. When you're answering these questions, you get to add in any interesting context that would help you achieve an answer. The clues are strictly kind of a mechanical thing that just affect the bonus if you work them in to your theory. Anything else you know about the situation can be used to sort of come up with your answer. And so that is where we are with the Limehouse Lurker. If this was an ongoing campaign of The Between, I would also tell you, well, I'll tell you in a way, but you also have a mastermind clue. Now, in this game, we have this mastermind character who is in the background, kind of pulling the strings. And we got to see a little bit of that at the end of the session last time in our stinger scene. You do have 1 mastermind clue, which was the encounter between, I think it was Dr. Pendleton, correct? And Theodora, and in her carriage. And so that the mastermind clues are kind of like a campaign timer. So if this was an ongoing campaign and not a true shot for High Shelf, you would be 1/15th on the way towards completing the campaign. So, all right. So with all that said, we will actually do want to take a look at the hunters as well in the recap, because you have managed to acquire a few conditions at this point. Dryden, for example, has a condition called the journal, connected to the fact that you were having communications with a vampire of your own, Dryden, who was able to use this magical journal to communicate with you. There was a bit of mistaken identity. That vampire showed up at the house, and we don't know where he went. This vampire maybe has nothing to do with the Limehouse Lurker, or maybe he does. I don't know. You all can determine that for yourselves. But that is something else that's going on. You also have the condition being watched, which is sort of how the vampire knew to come find you at Hargrave House. Dr. Pendleton has being watched as well, and Ms. Byrne has fatalistic as a condition. Now, I will tell you that in session 2 of the Between and onward, that is when you typically do what's called the vulnerable move. So whenever you frame up a scene with one other hunter where one of you is doing your vice, or indulging in your vice, then you have a chance to clear these conditions by sort of making the scene kind of like indicate that you're clearing that condition and role-playing it in a certain way. You also get a bonus of either finding a clue or inviting the other character to ask you a question about your past, which is one of those rare times you get to talk about your past. The other rare time you get to talk about your past is whenever you narrate stuff for your Janus mask. And last time, a couple of you used the Janus mask in order to avoid some negative outcomes. And now you have to do what those prompts say. And so we're going to actually start with that before we kick off the day phase. So who still has Janus mask unresolved from last time? All right, looks like Ms. Byrne and Dr. Pendleton both do. So I don't know if you do or not,
I've got one checked off.
No, I don't think you do. You do, but it's not one that requires any. Or you did that already. You already did the one where you narrated your
got it.
Your professional triumph, right? Yeah. Why don't we start with? Let's start with Ms. Byrne. Read the prompt to us, Ms. Byrne, and then
I was also planning on narrating the Mask of the Sun from the Threat Mask.
Do we all have to do that still? Oh, does everybody have Mask of the Sun? Oh, I didn't know we were.
That's okay, because I was going to nest it within my Mask of the Past.
Ooh,
Did you want to read the Mask of the Sun?
Let me remind everyone, Mask of the Sun, if you haven't done it yet, apparently it got marked last time. I don't remember that, but each hunter narrates a dream they once had of primordial Earth back in time across the ancient seas, back in time when the spirits walked, when the sun was new and the old gods held court. You know, a little trifling thing. And if you want to combine these narrations, obviously.
Definitely. So for this Mask of the Past, for the vessel, narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows the first time you encountered a dark entity. I remember being very young, and I was able to wander across the fields. And it was a sunny day, but then a storm blew up out of nowhere. The sky became dark, and it was as if the wind was trying to tear off my clothes. And then before me was this tall, beautiful woman with dark black hair and blackened fingertips and a dark dress that seemed to be part of a storm. And she looked at me and she said, "So, child, you wander near me here. How fortuitous. Would you like to have a little dream? A little dream with me?" And I remember saying, I was told never to go with strangers. I don't know you. And she said, we're not strangers at all. We will become fast friends. Come, fade into the darkness and sleep. And I remember her waving her hand, and then it's as if a cloud, the darkness, had covered my eyes, and then I remember falling asleep suddenly and dropping into this place. It was the same field, but it was vast, and the sky was purple and dark, and the woman was there. She was ahead of me. She was dancing ahead, barely any clothes on, just covered in clouds and lightning. And she was meeting these gigantic creatures. They looked like humans with blue skin and electricity all over them. And they cavorted in this field away from me as the lightning struck the ground and burned. And I was there. I was there in that dream, smelling the ozone, smelling the clouds. And then the rain came, and I was washed out of the fields and somehow back into my bed, watching the storm outside.
Bravo, thank you. Woo. Dr. Pendleton? Sorry to follow that, Dr. Pendleton, but by all means.
I've played lots of games with Mads, and it's always impossible to follow. I'm gonna try and do all three. It kind of wrapped up in one as well, just to
Okay, sure,
keep
yeah.
things a little speedy. Dr. Pendleton is dreaming after the events of last night, the action that went down. And in her dream, she is standing as a giant over a vast ocean. Her feet, she can feel them bare, touching the ground, touching the bottom of the ocean, clenching her toes and bringing up the soot or the sediment and the salts. And there's no creatures, there's nothing alive. She reaches down and scoops up water in her hand and lets it fall. And as she lets it fall, the action of just scooping it up brings together all the molecules, the carbon and the oxygen and the nitrogen, in just such a way that when it hits the water again, single-celled organisms start to swim around and move around. As she continues to scoop and slush around the water, more and more molecules and cells start to form. The single-celled organisms become sea creatures, become sea plants, and everything starts to grow and feed on each other and feed on itself and reproduce. And she stands as a god watching all of her creation. She wakes somewhat, startles to find herself in another dream, but this time it's a memory. She's weeping at the side of a grave, sobbing. There is a lot of solemn faces. She is wearing black. She has a veil. Her sobs are racking her whole body. They are loud and suffocating. And she looks up at the casket. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful black polished wood with gold trim and flowers adorning it. She throws herself on the casket as it begins to lower into the ground, sobbing and desperately pleading for whatever gods are listening to help her. The camera pans then to the headstone, and it says, in loving memory of Dr. Millicent Morrison. The camera zooms in on this name, and as it zooms out, we realize now we're looking at a pamphlet. Dr. Millicent Morrison's lecture on grief. Dr. Pendleton sits in the very front of the lecture theater, notebook in hand, pen at the ready, glasses. She's adjusting them to make sure that she's going to be able to see properly. Into the room walks a surprisingly young woman, kind of frazzled hair, strawberry blonde, the pencil stuck through it almost absent-mindedly, and immediately begins to speak. This woman, Millicent, begins to speak on grief and how it is a necessary and important part of life, how without grief, humans wouldn't appreciate life, wouldn't appreciate what sort of gifts we are given, wouldn't appreciate anything. Without suffering, where would we be? And Dr. Pendleton doesn't quite agree. The camera goes back now to Dr. Pendleton draped over the casket, sobbing, and black gloved hands reach out to pull her off gently, pull her into the arms of the Bobby. The Bobby says to her, Dr. Pendleton, you are under arrest for murder. And she wakes up then, for real, sobbing into her pillow, grasping it like it's a casket.
All right. Well, that's a great way to kick off the session. Thank you both so much. Judd and I will do our best to keep up for the remainder of the session. No, that was great fun. Thank you.
Amazing.
That's why I made this game, is for stuff like that. Well, we're in the day phase. And I'll remind you all that in the day phase, you all pretty much have control over the ebb and flow of what's going to happen here. You need to get a few more clues before you can make a stab at this question about the vampire. So we have some leads that can still be followed up on. For example, no one has gone to the Limehouse school yet to investigate that particular body. There also might be some follow-up things with some of the other things you've done. The vulnerable move is available, as I mentioned last time, for those of you who'd like to clear some conditions and maybe get some free clues as well. And you also have your dawn questions too. You might think about how you might answer your dawn questions affirmatively. You can even frame up scenes expressly for answering your dawn questions affirmatively. And so I think I'm going to go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing today, and then we'll frame up the scenes from there. So why don't we start with, I never like to start with the factotum. I always like to give the employer a chance to say first. So Dr. Pendleton,
I would like to have a vulnerable scene with my employee, if Judd is amenable to that. And then I think I would like to go to the schoolhouse that I was trying to go to last night.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Before you were waylaid. Good. Okay. Well, Dryden, assuming you're okay with that, that scene with Dr. Pendleton, what would you do after that?
Oh, what would I do after that?
Yeah, or what is your intention?
I think I am going to try to get the journal cleared off, or get my conditions cleared off. And I think that will. I mean, that's my main thing.
If you want to do a vulnerable scene, well, I guess you can't ask. I mean, I'd have to figure out a way to maneuver it with you.
Right.
But I mean, if you wanted to consult Helena about
the journal,
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So we've got a couple of scenes ready to go. Then I think that's good. And I have other plans for you as well, Dryden. A hangover from the previous night phase, possibly. Ms. Byrne, what would you like to do today?
Yeah, after maybe talking with Dryden, then probably head over to the school myself. Maybe not necessarily with Dr. Pendleton, if she plows on ahead, but maybe follow afterwards and then take a different angle. So if she goes into the school, then maybe outside or vice versa. Yeah.
Sounds good. Why don't we start with Dr. Pendleton and Dryden. let's take a look at the vices. So Dr. Pendleton's vice is cleansing tonics, and Dryden's vice is fine cigars. I'm curious which of the vices is in play here in this scene, because that'll kind of determine what the scene is like.
I think it'll likely be my vice in this situation.
Okay. I'll frame up the
I
scene
think
then.
it's morning in Dr. Pendleton's lab. It's dark. She's still crying into her pillow. And I think she's got her arm. She sleeps in her lab nowadays. She's got a little cot. She's got her arm out of the cot, ringing a little silver bell, ding, 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 ding,
Mm-hmm.
to get Dryden's attention as she
Yeah.
sobs into her blankets.
Yeah. Dryden comes down, I think, with breakfast ready, right? Like he doesn't wait for the bell to start. He just knows that that's when he comes down, and yeah, so like comes down with like a full breakfast and Pendleton's preferred morning beverage and yeah, all kind of on a tray. And I also imagine the tray and the breakfast like is totally out of place in the lab. Like it just doesn't fit. It's just like this kind of clean, crisp Victorian, breakfast in this
like silver and porcelain in this like ghoulish den.
totally in this ridiculous Gothic mad science lab. Absolutely.
As she cries, she drops the bell as she hears you come in, and she cries out, "Dryden, nobody understands me. My work, no one will ever appreciate it. Nobody understands me."
You haven't shared your work yet, Dr. Pendleton. No one can understand it yet. This is just the morning talking. Why don't you have some tea and some breakfast, and everything will look a little bit better.
Nobody will ever deserve my work. It's beyond the comprehension of these fools that I meet every day. Dryden, what will I do?
Well, you might perish in obscurity, but you shouldn't perish hungry. So let's get eating.
And
I
she
think
just wails at that.
All right, you can't. Well, you can. You can cry and eat at the same time if you need to, Dr. Pendleton.
She holds out her hand again.
I did not mean to be cruel.
Me, my morning tonic. I think there's a glass cabinet that's full of these jars, just like the one she had, the Man in the Sun mask filling, and they all have these different labels on them. They're all in code. Yes, some are opium, some are other things.
Yeah. He knows what that means, and I think he like puts it all into like a, and again, I think this is different than the breakfast, right? I think that comes in like a little beaker, right? Like a little cleaned beaker. So like but he knows where to pour it. There's probably like a little hash mark, and he pours it up to that, and he hands it to you.
She just, still wailing, knocks it back, puts the beaker down on the tray, and picks up the coffee and has a sip. And
bad dreams, Dr. Pendleton?
Well, just the usual.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for getting me settled this morning.
Of course.
I hope that you will, well, make quick with making my bed and getting everything ready. And she kind of shrugs back her shoulders and cricks her neck and steps out of bed into her slippers. It's strange, though. In the bed, there's just a small little pillow and a very simple blanket on this cot. Next to the pillow, though, is a very real, very clean and bleached skull. And she steps up to the counter in her lab, where in a decorative apothecary jar, in this sort of greenish liquid, is a brain. Just a standard human brain. She leans over to this jar, places her hand on either side of it, and leans down to give it a kiss. And good morning, my love.
Yeah, I think Dryden has no idea how to handle that shit. And so he just says, this should put you in a better mood. And he kind of like unveils your your shawl, right? With that is stained, that is unstained, right? Yeah.
Dryden, you are absolutely a miracle worker. Do you know that?
Well, I can't take credit for this. We actually had a guest last night, and they were very helpful. So,
Well, I suppose I'll hold back any accolades for you then.
yeah, like just like the bitterest fucking smile. Like, absolutely. Yeah, of course, doctor. I'll be up. I think, and he picks up the bell and puts it within arm's reach and says, I'll be here if you need me.
So, two things. One, you may die in obscurity, but you won't die of hunger is probably the best line I've had in the game this week. Second, do you think you have both cleared the being watched condition just because your day-to-day life is so much more eminently weird than that? Is that
Yeah,
what's going on here?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I got the impression of with Dr. Pendleton, at least, right? Like, okay, yeah, I'm being watched, but also I have a brain in a jar that I talk to. So yeah,
Cool.
I think you can both clear that condition if you wish.
Awesome.
Now, it was your vice, and per the move, Dr. Pendleton, you get to choose the bonus. The bonus can be either you can stumble on a clue, which you actually get to say what it is, or you can invite Dryden to ask you a question about the past, in which case Judd will have to think of a question. Which do you want?
I'm going to go with the question.
Okay. Dryden, think of the question. I'm going to cut over to Ms. Byrne for a bit. Ms. Byrne, you have a little bit of time to kill until you have your scene with Dryden. Any early morning divinations or any other sorts of things you want to get up to?
Yeah, I mean, not for advantage purposes, but I mean, because it's in my personal quarters, I'm just going to do it anyway. Like in the mornings before, really getting up, she'll be on her bed in her shift, and then she'll pull out that velvet bag of the dirty tarot cards with the cutouts, and then she will do a simple spread of like 3 cards, and then she will kind of like slowly, do like a mini ritual with them where she will ceremoniously take out one of her silver hairpins, and then she will prick, not jab, she will prick her fingertip, and then she will kind of like just like run it across her fingertips, and then she will use that hand to take and place each card very deliberately on her bed as she's going to do the reading. And then she's kind of like shuffling through and doing this, and then in the meantime she's also kind of like looking at her blood as well, like
I love
just
it,
kind of
yeah.
contemplating it.
Go ahead and roll Rites of Salt and Smoke. I
Okey-doke.
believe that's with sensitivity.
Yeah, it should be. Let's take a look. Yeah, okay.
I will say, because you are fatalistic, your relationship to tarot cards might be complicated right now.
Oh, sure.
And so I'm going to put you at disadvantage as well.
Sure.
Which means for people watching the stream, you roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest.
2 lowest. Okay, so that is a 5 plus a 3, and that is an 8.
Okay, not too bad. So you get your effect. It sounds like your effect was just to observe another place or time, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, and you have to pick a complication as well, though.
Okay, so complication.
This move I stole from Monster of the Week, by the way. Wholesale.
Ooh, just because I like fun things. The magic draws immediate unwanted attention.
Oh, good. I've got that well in hand.
Okay.
Something in the house right now smells your blood.
Of course.
How do you know that?
I think as the rite is happening, and then she's examining her blood, she can literally see after she's like, or while she's doing the reading, she can literally see the droplets and the smudges of blood start to move of their own accord, and like almost signal like, ooh, somebody's paying attention.
trying to go somewhere. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. We'll come back to your visions in a bit. Let's check in with Dryden and Dr. Pendleton. Dryden, you get to ask a question of Dr. Pendleton, which Dr. Pendleton must answer truthfully.
Yeah, I think I would wait on this question, but since this is it, let's just do it. I think and if we're talking about this as if it's a being shot with cameras, the shot is Pendleton through the brain jar, so he's kind of all distorted, and his like furrowed brow as he looks kind of concerned for the doctor, and he says, who was the brain owner to you, Doctor? Who is this beloved?
Oh, my dear Mr. Dryden, you know that I cannot divulge that sort of information to you, because if I do, then you are going to be an accomplice. And we both know that you don't want to be an accomplice more than you already are. I do really appreciate how much care you took for this brain while I was indisposed at that other hospital for such a long time, keeping it moist. It's very healthy, and I appreciate your hard work. But if I were to answer honestly,
Which you
well,
must.
I don't have to answer fully, though.
You don't have to answer fully. You just have to answer
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
If I were to answer honestly, well, unfortunately, you would have to go to prison. No, we don't want that, of course. We never want that. So, for now, just know that this brain is a person that I love dearly, and a very important part of my project.
Yes, Doctor. Of course. Thank you for looking out for my legal well-being. I appreciate it.
Oh, one has to ponder the question whether Dryden gets paid enough to deal with all this emotional labor in addition to the regular tasks.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to fast forward the scene a little bit.
Cool.
Dryden, you are out in the hall. Perhaps maybe you have an appointment with Ms. Byrne to check in with Ms. Byrne, or maybe we'll see that in a bit. But you hear the ringing of a bell. Ding, 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 ding. There are lots of rooms in Hargrave House that are empty because right now Ms. Byrne and Dr. Pendleton are the only residents in residence. And yet, ding, 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 ding. It's not coming from their rooms.
His current tray down in the kitchen and follows the bell.
Ding, 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 ding. You go back up to the floor where the quarters generally are, and it's coming from one of the rooms.
I think the general, when the bell is rung, it's like a quick knock and then you open the door, right? So I'll knock twice and then open the door to that room where the ringing has come from.
The room is dark. All the curtains have been pulled closed. The ringing of the bell is coming from inside a canopy bed, which also has the curtains closed up around it. Ding, 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 ding. More loudly now.
Yes, I am here. How can I help you?
Did I hear correctly that your name is Dryden?
Dryden or Mr. Dryden will do. Yes, sir.
Let's go with Dryden. Dryden, I was enjoying my rest. I keep unusual hours, as I think you know. And, I was awakened by a fantastic smell. Someone has spilled their blood in Hargrave House this morning. And, I am olfactorily attuned in a very acute way to spilled blood. It's disturbed my sleep, and yet there's something very special about that blood.
Mm-hmm.
Dryden, perhaps you could go find this person who spilled their blood and convince them to, a little aperitif, a little taste, a little something to welcome me back.
I'm sorry. We've had a misunderstanding, and that's probably my fault. And for that, I apologize. I think you'll find that I am not your ghoul. I am Hargrave House's manservant. If you want someone to bring you blood, you'll have to hire someone else to do that kind of work.
Well, a tisket, a tasket, Dryden. I mean, if I'm hungry and your job is to feed people in residence who are hungry, and if what I eat is blood, I mean, why get all judgmental about it? Why put values on it? It's just a little blood. Everyone's got it.
I will not be bringing anyone to your room.
Well, now I'm up and I'm hungry. So, what about you? Servant's blood is still blood.
I walk to a window and I move the curtains so that
All right. Message received.
If you need anything else, just ring. And I walk out and close the door behind me.
You can hear him pouting.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I think before I leave, I say thank you for the help with the shawl. It was a big hit.
And yeah, he will. Yeah, he's just grumbling as you close the door.
Yeah.
Let's have the scene with. Oh, actually, no. Let's check in with Ms. Byrne again. So, Ms. Byrne, what are you trying to observe right now in the cards?
Again, because of the fatalistic condition, I think she's just trying to, do a check to see if it says anything real about her. It usually doesn't. I mean, like, it's very vague and cryptic. But even more so anytime she tries to draw her cards. So for everybody else, it's like it's usually like fairly clear, but for her own, it's like very obscure. So
you draw the card of the High Priestess, which is in the Major Arcana, which is a big deal. And your particular tarot maybe has symbology and things that is not standard traditional tarot cards. And nevertheless, the High Priestess is typically associated with the subterranean, with symbolically the internal, the deep, the sort of the feminine, right? But also it can be physically subterranean. And indeed, that's the impression you're getting. Underground is very important. And you also see on the card, your blood has dripped onto the card, and it's actually seeping into the image and becoming one with the image. Spilled blood underground. It is a clue about the Limehouse Lurker. If somebody wants to note that would be very helpful.
Got it.
Thanks.
And maybe at this point is when you can have your scene with Dryden. Your vice is, what is your vice?
examining my own blood.
Oh, examining your, well, hey, perfect.
Right.
You might hear Dryden coming out of a room that's not normally used, incidentally. You'll note that. What do you do?
I think at this point, like, she has opened her door, but she's still on the bed, just in her shift, and like she's got the cards laid out on her bed with the the blood, and then she's as Dryden's coming down the hallway, it's like, she slowly opens her eyes and then she starts to look at her hand that has the blood on it. And then when Dryden like comes by the door, I think he will see her cross-legged on the bed, and then she's like contemplating the blood droplets that are on the tips of her fingers. So I don't know if you want to come in at that point, Dryden.
Yeah, he'll knock and come in and say, I think when he sees you, he freezes and says, is this a good time or is this a bad time? I'm sorry, Ms. Byrne?
Oh, no, oh, Dryden, it's wonderful to see you this morning. No, it's fine. Come in. It's fine. And she will lower her hand, but she won't like rub it or put it away or anything like that.
Right.
And you see the cards that are on her bed.
Yeah. Can he notice it's your room, so I'd like you to definitely tell me if this is something you think would be in the room, like a stick or a cone of incense that he could light.
Probably. I mean, at the very least, there'd be a lamp like near the door.
Right.
And then probably like some of the scented sticks, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think do you mind if I light this? We don't want the smell of blood can bring all manner of predators.
I noticed that this morning. I was and she lifts up her hand again. It's like seemed quite excited, but not of course by me.
No.
Do we have a guest?
It was quite excited by you, Ms. Byrne, I'm afraid. That is actually what I wanted to tell you about. I think he closes the door and puts the journal on your bedside table and says, while you and the doctor were away, I tried to do a little research of my own, looking at the archives of past Hargrave House hunters. And I came across this journal, and through the journal, communicated with a vampire who is now roosting in the Hargrave House.
So he managed to become a resident by writing in this journal, or this journal was already
I
here?
believe he was a resident in the past and knew past Hargrave House hunters, and that is where he kind of gained his invitation and knew about it. He walked in very much like he knew the place.
Oh, that's a little disturbing. I see. He smelled me piercing my skin, did he?
He did. He was very eager to meet you after that and asked me to bring you to him, and I declined because that is not in my job description.
No, 'tis not. Well, I thank you for your discretion. Thank you very much. But is this troubling you? And then she's pointing.
I fear in trying to do this research and in trying to communicate with this vampire through this arcane journal, I have really reached beyond my abilities, and I am in something a little bit over my head. I'm concerned I might have brought a monster into the house when we're supposed to be hunting them outside the house. And if there's a way to disentangle myself from this journal, you would be the person I would trust to help me do that.
She asks to look at the journal.
Yeah, he's already put it on your bedside table.
Okay. And then she'll grab it, and then she'll just kind of start flipping through it with the non-bloodied hand.
Right.
And she'll say, "So how important is this journal to you?"
This journal has no importance to me. I was just looking for clues.
Well, would you say that fire be a cleansing kind of element?
Yes, but I am uncomfortable burning Hargrave House archives future hunters might be deprived of information that they might need.
I will tell you that presently on whatever blank page you have the journal open to, writing is appearing like, I'm right here. I can hear everything you're saying.
That would be Julius.
Ah. So we have a name.
As in Caesar, he writes.
He is in the blue room at the moment.
I see. Well, I wouldn't worry about this too much or much longer. And what she does as she's saying this is she'll come off of her bed, and then she will take the journal, and then she will go ahead and keep the open page, and then put it right over the lamp and the sticks that you just lit to start to set it on fire.
The writing says, that would be very foolish indeed. This is an object of power. Why would you want to burn such a thing?
Because you're writing in it, love. She actually laughs.
Yeah. I don't know what is making Dryden more uncomfortable, that you're like walking around in your shift, or you're about to burn a book, or that you're talking to a vampire, or that you're bleeding. Like there's so many, like he can't pick just one. But he's just like very stiff, and still.
I do think you have cleared the journal condition if you wish to clear it, Dryden.
Awesome.
Ms. Byrne, I'll let you decide on fatalistic or not, whether you think it's cleared.
I think it's because this is injected like a bit of like macabre humor into her morning. I think she's doing okay now.
Yeah, I like how this is what it is. You all get together, you act like weirdos, and you're like, I feel okay after all.
Exactly.
So good. The bonus is yours though,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne. Which do you want? A clue or to invite Dryden to ask you a question about the past?
I think in this case it's like I want to create a clue. I just have
or any question you want.
I was gonna create a clue. I just have to think about it for a couple minutes.
Okay, think on it for a minute. It might come from the journal even. So good. Let's check in with Dr. Pendleton, and then we might take a break in a little bit after that. Dr. Pendleton. Okay, well you've got your afternoon ahead of you, Dr. Pendleton. Are you heading to the Limehouse School?
Yep, I'm gonna grab a handsome cab, and ride out to the school.
Let's go ahead and do that. You are, well, you can go out to the square and hail a cab. And the cab, you'll notice, already has a passenger. And so maybe you put that one out of your mind, but it actually comes to a stop. It's this woman from last night. You recognize her sapphire stone on her choker right away. She says, well, this is certainly not the mode of travel I'm accustomed to, at least in terms of comfort and splendor, but I had a feeling you might be going out today.
So you were just riding around in a carriage, waiting for me to come out?
Oh, Dr. Pendleton, let's just say I have little birds in lots of little places that tell me all sorts of little things that I need to know. My name is Theodora Brathwaite. I apologize for my rudeness last night.
Well, I accept your apology if it is indeed genuine. And I am, of course, Dr. Penelope Pendleton.
Excellent. My apology is 75% genuine, say. Have a seat.
And yeah, Dr. Pendleton gets it.
Driver, I have a feeling we're going to Limehouse. And the cab driver will, hurry the horses on. And she says, how is this business going with the bodies? in Miss Johnston's basement.
You do seem to know a lot, don't you?
Little birds, Dr. Pendleton, little birds.
Well, unfortunately, it isn't actually your business as far as I know. So I suppose, I can't say anything.
Dr. Pendleton, I am the sort of woman who makes things her business.
Yes,
The business of London is my business.
I see that very, very clearly. Now, tell me, Brathwaite, is it?
Yes.
You seem quite active for a woman your age.
Oh, a little jibe about my age. Well,
No. I mean that quite as a compliment.
oh, I see. I see. I can see how this is going to be played, Dr. Pendleton, and that's all right. I'm amenable to your little game.
Oh, I'm
You
merely asking
seem-
about your cardiovascular system, you see.
Yes. Well, let's just say I was very active in my youth.
And no heart
I reap the
palpitations
rewards.
or...
I reap the rewards every day from my fine and clean living as a young woman.
Well, then. And I think she's just kind of lost in thought for a moment, like just completely goes away. And then comes back. And I'm sorry, I must have forgotten to ask. You came to pick me up to bring me to the Limehouse district for what,
Oh, no.
curiosity? Because your little
I'm
birds
just-
haven't told you enough?
Just here for the ride, enjoying this fine afternoon in London. I don't get to come to the city as often as I'd like. Actually, I have a little proposal for you, now that you mention it.
Well, I am not in the business of giving out grants anymore.
We'll come back to this scene. What clue did you find, Miss Byrne?
I think as she's setting it on fire and she's about ready to throw it into the grate, she remembers what Julius wrote in the book, and it's like an object of power, and then she's concentrating on those words as they burn away, and then as it burns she's going to see the picture of a broken dagger outlined
interesting.
in the book, in the journal, before it completely like turns into ash.
Oh, intriguing. Good. All right, I like it. It's a good cryptic clue. I think at this point we will take a 5-minute break. Taylor, I will turn it over to you for break time. Why don't we go ahead and check in with Dryden and Ms. Byrne after your scene, after you're done with burning up the journal. And Ms. Byrne, are you going to go ahead and catch your own cab to Limehouse, or are you doing something different?
Yeah, I think Dryden did say that Julius was in the blue
He's like right
room.
across the hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting conversation.
Could be.
Just for funsies, I'm just could be interested to talk with him, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Before
Well,
going to Limehouse.
He's a vampire. I mean, you got a vampire problem. It's
Yeah.
not completely out of the
Yeah.
realm
not?
of possibility.
Sure.
Is that
Dryden, what
is
are
that where you're
you
going to get your clue?
doing?
Do you think?
Well, no, wait, I
Oh no, the clue was the broken
Oh,
knife.
got it.
broken knife
The
outline
image
in
of the
the
broken knife,
in the
yeah.
burning journal. Yeah.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Well, Dryden, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep an eye on the situation or go do something
Yeah,
else?
I can't. I'm definitely going to like find a reason to like clean a room nearby.
Yeah, you can always appear because of
and
my
I-
person
and
Friday.
I-
You can
yeah,
always appear.
Yeah, and I can
instantly,
appear.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the.
if it goes,
Yeah.
Poorly. So, okay, good. I like that. Let me check in with Dr. Pendleton real quick, and then we'll come back to that. Theodora says, Dr. Pendleton, I know very well what sort of work Hargrave House gets up to. I understand that this creature in Limehouse has to be dealt with in some way. That is the remit of you and your colleagues. And as a citizen of the Empire, I thank you for your service. But I would like to ask that when you do dispense with the creature, that you don't destroy it. Convince it to leave London, chase it out, do whatever you have to do, but let it continue existing. Your colleagues may want to treat the creature in a more summary manner and destroy it without Terry, but I think you should let it live. And in exchange for letting it live, I will tell you that there is a fabulous, beautiful soprano who will be having a very tragic accident soon, I'm afraid. And she is draped in loveliness. And I might be able to get you some alone time with her post facto.
I suppose another little birdie,
Oh, yes. My little birds are all over London, Dr. Pendleton.
No.
It's a fair trade.
Oh,
Let the creature live.
I'm certainly not suggesting that it's not a fair trade. It seems quite fair to me. I'm just, out of curiosity and, of course, to get all of the information. It's very important to have all the information and all the facts, Mrs. Brathwaite, is it Mrs. or...
I prefer Ms. or
Ah,
Lady Brathwaite, if you prefer.
so no close immediate family?
I have a daughter, but no, the sire is not in the picture, say.
Interesting. Well, may I ask, Ms. Brathwaite, why are you so invested in this creature being alive?
And she kind of smiles and says, Dr. Pendleton, this is the part in the story where I become incredibly coy and I give you just enough information to intrigue you and to placate you and agree to my terms.
Oh.
But I'm going to let you fill in the specifics this time.
Miss Brathwaite, we both know that I'm going to agree to your terms. I just like to know a little bit more about why.
Fair enough, fair enough. Let's just say that the creature and I have a history.
Fair enough.
You can gather that the fact that I continue to refer to it as the creature means it was probably not a pleasant one.
I did gather that, yes. I am a woman of science. I can pick up on clues,
Incredibly intuitive. So, do we have a deal?
I believe, yes, that this is quite a generous deal, and I am amenable to it, yes, of course. Shall we shake on it, or would you like to sign a contract? I'd rather not have it written down, you see. I've had some trouble in the past.
I think we shall get on just fine with a handshake. And she goes to shake your hand. And she'll drop you off in Limehouse and then be on her way.
Love it.
Meanwhile, Miss Byrne, you just going into Julius's room?
Yeah, that would probably be like double temptation for him. Like she's still bleeding a little bit and she's only wearing a shift. Oh, she'll grab a shawl and throw that on over her shift. It's like, no standing on ceremony here.
Hmm.
And then she'll you said blue room, yeah? So she'll head over down the hall, go to the blue room. She'll knock.
Come in.
And then she will slowly open the door, and she will take a peek. Is the canopy a
It's
bed?
closed.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
He calls. He says, I don't know if you've been in this room before, and I know you can't see it very well right now, but let me assure you, it is positively drenched in blue. I have a colleague who favors this color and tends to put it everywhere. I can't escape the color blue. What a tragedy. Miss Byrne, you smell delicious.
Oh, you have me at a disadvantage. You know my name. I don't necessarily know yours.
My name is Julius. I am a former hunter of Hargrave House, though I have been on sabbatical for a couple of 100 years.
So you never really severed your ties.
No, in fact, I was quite surprised when I was able to just walk right through the front door. I didn't know that was actually going to work, but it did work, and it made for an incredibly dramatic moment with the house servant.
You really shouldn't be treating Dryden like as if he's one of the furniture.
Oh, I know. I just like to get under people's skin, Ms. Byrne. What would it take to get under your skin right now, Ms. Byrne?
Ah. So now we come to it then. You would like to do a little trade.
A little taste for
We have
something I know about my kind, perhaps?
indeed. That is what we are looking into right now.
Yes, indeed. Shall this be purely transactional, a tit for tat, or will it be something more fun?
Well, how close is Dryden to Miss Byrne?
Yeah, are you overhearing any of this, Dryden? Or are you just sort of the murmurings, or
I think I'm like
you getting the details?
a discreet bit down the hall. Like I trust Miss Byrne to like be able to handle herself, but I also don't trust Julius and want to be there to help. So yeah.
She'll come out of the room, just kind of leaning out and then just kind of looking at you down the hallway. And then
Right.
she'll just give you a wink and says, I got this. It's fine. Go on.
Very well. And I think he goes downstairs. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she'll go in and then she will, the camera will pan to go behind her as she strides over to the bed, flings off her shawl, flings open the canopy, and then just just kind of now let's have that little discussion.
He's laying there in bed, kind of propped up on a wall of silk pillows, and he's covered up to the waist with a sheet, but otherwise has no clothing on. His long blonde hair is strategically draped over his shoulders. And he says, what a splendid morning repast you shall make, Miss Byrne.
And then she puts her face up close to his before he gets, really intimate. And then she whispers, be careful. If you're with me, you're not alone.
Oh, trust me, I know. I can see your little hangers-on behind you even now. That's all right. I'm a bit of an exhibitionist.
You're just going to be doing a little bit of sharing love.
Yes. What is life if not sharing and caring? And he bares his fangs.
Yep.
I like the day move. No, night move. I know it's day, but
Yeah.
you're in the middle of a dark room with a vampire. It's
Yeah.
night move.
It's fine. Yep.
What are you afraid is going to happen if this transaction goes poorly?
again, it's like my entities are going to have like a wonderful joke on me and then just like, let them drain me dry and then just like, probably strike a deal with him for funsies.
It's and because it's the night move, I have to say how it's worse than that.
Right.
He will drain you dry and then turn your husk over to the entities.
Right. They'll be
And
walking around
so-
in like Helena Byrne wear for however long.
yeah, we'll see.
Yep. Okay.
This is almost certainly sensitivity because of the supernatural nature of it.
Right.
Well, I get to make that call. I'm actually going to say it's vitality.
Oh.
I think it's more vitality.
Oh no.
Fundamentally.
Hold on, let me see.
But at least you don't have any conditions, so that's good.
Right, it's true. But I mean, I just want to see if there's anything in my personal course.
Yeah, -1 is not great.
Um.
If it goes poorly, Dryden can intercede with
Right.
my person Friday.
Right. Let me see. I think I don't know if I can like weave this in somehow, but I think like as she's like daring fate, I guess, like she's thinking about the broken music box and like how that is in its own way the discordant comfort that she has to keep her grounded, so this way she can protect herself even in this stressful situation. So I mean, if I can parlay that, then I can go ahead and check that to try to get advantage.
I like it, yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Don't fail me now, please. Wow. Okay. So that oh wait. Helps to be like 3 die. Sorry. I had asked for it. Okay. And that is a 9.
I'm going to leave you drained at the end of this as a
Mhm.
condition.
Okay.
If you want to bump up and not deal with that, you can. But otherwise, that's the penalty for 7 to 9.
Since I'm so close, I mean, I want to bump it up with a mask. I mean, that's fine.
Be thinking on. I'm going to give you. You're going to get your clue for giving him some of your blood,
Mhm.
which is the fundamental nature of the deal.
Right.
There also might be a sort of like, kind of a kink or sexual angle going on here.
Right.
But in any case, be thinking about mostly what it feels like to be in flagrante delicto with Julius right now. And I'm going to cut over to Dryden for a little bit. Dryden, how do you know, just from listening, that Ms. Byrne's going to be okay?
That's a great question. I don't know if it's from listening. I just trust that she deals with darker things on a daily basis. Like, I just feel like this guy is really is a big deal to me, but is petty to her.
Oh, I see. Yeah. She walked in there with confidence that.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, okay. So you've got a little bit of time to yourself then.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
I
can give you some leads on the investigation if you want them to.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Possible leads. I think you could probably, let's see, there's probably more to know about the actual opium den. Dr. Pendleton did not actually investigate the opium den itself. Dr. Pendleton just went down into the basement and then talked to the weirdo in the sun mask.
Right.
But there was a body found in the opium den. That's where Soft Jimmy was found.
Right.
There may also be more to learn at the bar. Because again, it was more of a conversation. There wasn't like a forensic investigation of the bar. Although I say that, but that's where we found the messy, bloody clue.
Yeah.
So maybe not. So the opium den is probably your best bet as far as that goes. There is a Constable Lansing, who Hargrave House is aware of right now, who's been keeping an eye on Limehouse pretty closely and all the weird goings on.
Yeah, I'll go talk to Constable Lansing.
Yeah, he can be found on his beat.
Cool.
And he might even remember you because you were down there,
right,
poking around. Yeah, if
right.
I recall correctly.
Yeah. I put a drunk who is.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. In the. Yeah.
We'll fast forward to that.
Cool.
He says, welcome to our little patch here in the city again, sir.
Yes, it's nice to see you again.
Any more drunkards or winos you want to bundle off into another part of the city?
No, I think that'll be it for now. My name is Mr. Dryden. I work with the Hargrave House, and we
Never
are
heard of it.
We are looking into some murders that have taken place around Limehouse, and
Murders,
mhm,
you say?
mhm.
Interesting.
My employer has been known to help Scotland Yard from time to time. And
This is a Scotland Yard investigation. I see. That makes sense. Well, and I suppose you want to know what I've seen.
if you've noticed anything strange around Limehouse, anything the murderer very often appears to be almost as a young child. It can be very unnerving.
Very strange indeed.
Mm-hmm.
I have a nose for trouble, Mr. Dryden. It's what makes me good at my job.
Ah, great.
But I feel my nose, the nostrils are flaring with you around, sir. I feel like maybe I should be asking you the questions about, well, you say you're here helping Scotland Yard, but you don't look particularly official. And
I am not. My employer helps Scotland Yard. I am only a servant. Here to ask some questions.
a servant who comes down to do investigations for the employer. What a strange thing.
Oh, I
Do you
think
get paid?
it's not so strange.
Do you get paid for all this extra duty?
Yeah, I think like through everything that has happened, right? Like Julius being a condescending dick and everything, like nothing has really offended Dryden until like right now when someone brings up his pay. He's like, I think I will not be discussing my pay with you today.
He's like, I meant no offense. I meant no
course.
offense.
Of course.
People do all sorts of things for money, don't they? Especially nowadays. We live in very strange times. But why should I talk to you? I've heard nothing
Because
about
there's
murders.
something happening in the neighborhood that is under your protection that is scaring you. And when you go to sleep tonight, you want to know that there are people who can look after those frightening things in the dark that you cannot handle, despite your amazing nose.
Make the information move with presence to see if you've appealed to something in him.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. If you have something in your personal quarters that would help, you can mark it and get a bonus. But
personal quarters. Hold on. Sorry.
it's okay.
Just looking at everything. A bottle to take stains out. 2 incredibly rare cigars. Yeah, I think I'll take out a cigar and say, like, why don't we just, talk it over like two
He's
gentlemen.
That is a
discussing their
fine
work.
cigar for a servant and a police constable, and he's sort of looking at it, and you can tell you've got his attention.
Cool.
He says, I'm owed a little break, right?
Yep.
Good. You can mark that and roll 3 dice and take the 2 highest.
Oh, cool. There we go. Oh, nice. 10.
Oh, nice. Good. We'll come back to that. Dr. Pendleton, the Limehouse School. We haven't been here yet. Let's talk about it. The Limehouse School is a workhouse. There are filthy children all over the place. A frustrated mistress storming away from a group of girls who are not learning how to sew. A quite strong smell of unwashed bodies. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Workhouses like this are where poor children are sent to be managed until they're old enough to be turned out. What signs of deprivation do we see here?
You see all the little girls wearing the same very plain sacking. It's like just cut very A-line and very simple. And then the boys are wearing like, simple, simple cut shirts and pants. But aside from that, I mean, there's like you know, no distinction between any of them.
I think it is this huge space with all these children, and there's zero laughter. It's just very quiet, and yeah, it's just very like deathly quiet, except for the sound of the machines. And maybe if you look at the children's hands, you'll see signs of industrial disfigurement from different things that they have to do repetitively.
There is a single wood burning stove in a corner, and it's lit, but it's set to burn really slow. There's only one small piece of wood put in at a time, and that's let to go all the way down before the next one is put in order to save on expenses.
I'll remind you, Dr. Pendleton, that one of the victims, Charla Bell, was an employee here at the Limehouse School, and her body was found behind the main structure. You're inside, and I think that you'll be approached straight away by, I think the headmaster sees you. You will have learned ahead of time, his name is Lawrence Chesterfield. He's very fidgety, wears a brown 3-piece suit, and he sees you, and he kind of moves some kids away out of his way, and it comes up to you. And are you carrying anything?
Yeah,
like your
I have my
bag,
little medical
your
bag that I
doctor's
carry
bag, or
around.
anything? Okay, yeah. He comes up to you and he says, "Oh, are you? I didn't realize it was already time for city inspectors to come by. You must be new."
She pushes her glasses up her nose and says, "New? I've been around before. Haven't you been paying attention?"
Oh, yes, of course. I recognize you now, Ms. Ms.
Oh, goodness, I don't
Smith.
have time for this. Now, Mr. Chesterfield, I'm
Yes,
hearing some rumors that a member of your staff has died.
died. Well, I'm not aware of any such thing.
No? And none of your staff are missing?
Here he gets a little more like kind of clearly nervous and says, well, yes, we have people come and go. The children are, well, they're, as you can see, they're quite wretched, and they are not easy to work with. And it's a hard job we do. It is the Lord's work, but it is a difficult work, Ms. Padmore.
Honestly, man, you have to get to a point here. I'm trying to figure out what happened to your employee that has gone missing. And I'll remind you, it is against the law to lie to a city official.
Make the information move with presence.
Oh goodness, what is my presence? Oof. It's a 2.
A 2. Ooh, where do I want to go with this? We'll come back to this in a moment. Give me a minute to think about it. Ms. Byrne, what is it like to engage in sanguine congress with Julius?
It's like when he bites down, it's like an electric shock.
Mm.
And she can feel the blood pumping through her veins. But then, like, there's also the broken music that she hears from that music box. And it's almost creating the beat, the rhythm of this pumping. And then, of course, like, the physical reactions as well. And then she can see storm coming behind her eyes. Even as she's looking at Julius and, like, seeing all this stuff happening, it's almost like she's also above herself and then watching this happening from from a remote location. And then she's floating in clouds and hearing the voices of those entities, that woman's voice in her head and saying, "Now isn't that nice? The lovely storms of being so close to the darkness."
He, meanwhile, slumps back onto his pillows, blood staining his teeth and dribbling out of his mouth, and he says, "Oh, that's good shit.
Good,
You have
mean bad.
fantastic blood, Miss Byrne. Fantastic. Is this appropriate, though, us being co-workers, engaging in this sort of thing?"
We haven't worked together yet.
Well, yes, but I like to overthink things sometimes, I guess.
Deal's
If
a
I
deal.
had a heart that pumped warm blood of my own, I think I'd fall in love with you, Miss Byrne. I really do.
How sweet.
Hmm.
How about that deal you were talking about?
Yes. So, as you know, they are currently digging tunnels all over the city for this strange newfangled subterranean cable car thing. They have one such tunnel being dug very near the Chelsea docks in Limehouse. And the workers there have had no end of trouble as of late from bats. Huge quantities of bats. Every time they chase them out, the bats return. Now, when you are in my line of species, you know that bats are, well, it's a thing with us. But those bats are not my bats, and they're not the bats of any of my colleagues. And so 2 and 2 equals 4, and so forth.
And you haven't made friends with this other one of your species before?
Well, that's a funny thing. Ms. Byrne, I have to warn you. This wee vampiric bairn that you are currently seeking is incredibly old. Older than me, and I'm very old. Frankly, we're a little scared of it. We don't know why it's chosen to come here. It has not made itself known to us, though, formally.
Would you consider this one like a god?
No. It's not that old. But, well, I mean, I can feel him all the time in Limehouse. His life force, such as it is, it sort of throbs in the back of my mind at all times. And yet the creature is incredibly good at hiding itself from me. That, to me, tells me he's very powerful, which means he's very old.
So you can feel him everywhere. but yet nowhere.
Yes.
That's
It's a
fascinating.
fantastic trick. It's a one-way sort of shakedown. He gets to put all the fear in me, and I don't get to take anything back from him.
Oh, he doesn't give you a little taste of himself, then?
I hope you destroy the little fucker, frankly. I don't like the competition.
Well, appreciate the confidence. So we are no longer colleagues, then.
Well, I'm doing my part right now, aren't I?
Giving information.
Look at me.
Yes.
I'm even working off hours right now. This is my personal time, Ms. Bird.
And I hope it's been fun.
It has been most satisfying.
She will actually lean in and give him a kiss. But it's like one of those biting kisses and not like a tender kiss at all. So,
And he kind of like gives you a little smile and says, "Oh, I don't know about you, but I always have to go to sleep right after." And he rolls over.
she just, I mean, human men do the same thing. So she's pretty much going to jump out of bed and get dressed and head over to Limehouse.
Indeed. Speaking of Limehouse, you got a 10 on the police constable information check, right, Dryden?
Yes.
Clue free and clear. Let's see. He says, oh, wait, I better look at the other clues before I give you this clue. I don't want to duplicate by accident. It's so easy when you run this game so often to get things mixed up.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I have done that one, so I'm glad I looked. All right, let's go back. He says, well, I don't know if this is connected to what you're sort of looking into. I don't know anything about no kids and murders, though my interest is piqued. But as of late, I've been getting a very particular, very specific, strange complaint. People here who've managed to have their own copy of the good book, well, they have lately found those books defaced. I've had no fewer than 6 people in the last couple of weeks tell me that their copy of the Bible has had the story of Noah ripped out. Isn't that funny?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I hope it's helpful. But since you're here doing, if you're going to be here on a regular basis doing extracurricular activities for your employer, perhaps you'll check in with me every time you come by.
Yeah, he'll lie and say, of course.
Good. Well, best of luck with whatever you've got going on. Me and the nose are going to get back to it.
Yes. Good luck with that.
Indeed. Let's roll over to...
Before we do, so the clue here was about the story of Noah torn out of the Bible.
People's Bibles have had the story of Noah torn out.
Okay.
And the previous clue was the swarm of bats.
A swarm of bats in the tube tunnel being dug.
Okay.
In the neighborhood. Yeah. You rolled information move, correct, Dr. Pendleton?
Yes.
What'd you get? Oh, you got a miss.
I rolled snake eyes and I have a 0, so it was great.
You are... There's kids all over the place. And up in the high, dark rafters of the building, there's a kid up there, too. A girl. Crawling. And she looks down at Mr. Chesterfield, and she points at Mr. Chesterfield. She makes sure that you can see her, and she goes, as if to say, she's going to get him. And that's when you'll notice there are other children crawling up in the rafters, in the dark rafters. The lurker has made himself a whole little nest of foundling vampires here at the school. You can avoid this being a thing in the story by putting on the Janus mask. Otherwise, it is a thing in the story.
While I do kind of want to see what happens with a whole horde of little child vampires, I think I'm going to put on a mask.
Very good. So instead, I'll give you a clue. So that was a fun thing that did not happen. Instead, though, I'll give you this. It's still the rafters. Blood has been dripping down behind Mr. Chesterfield the whole time. Drip, 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 drip. And you look up and you see it kind of wet and pooled on one of the beams. Drip, drip, drip. That's your clue. And Mr. Chesterfield says, this is the complication. He says, I'm actually glad you're here, Ms. I'm really glad you're here. I was led to believe that somebody would be by from the city to, I was that you were supposed to hear and do an audit of our files, and I have all those files ready to go. If you would like to, I could take you there, and you could begin that work now.
Good grief, man. Of course I have people to do that for me. I'm a city official. I don't look at the
That's
files
not what you're here for,
myself.
then.
No, I am here for the files. I'm just needing to find out where they are and perhaps get a key to the building for my colleague to come by afterwards when there's not little children around to, audit the files.
They're always underfoot, ma'am. You can't get rid of them, no matter how hard you try. Yes. Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that could be arranged. A nighttime pickup, then.
Yes, I think that would be the easiest. We're very overworked at the city.
Oh, good. Yes, I can see that. And he's been no help otherwise, except for just you see some blood dripping from the rafters. And the rest of your day, in fact, is spent with him taking you back to the office and going through. He's showing you all these different things he's had pulled and all these other things. And he doesn't know what happened to those kids that went missing several months ago. People are in and out of this place. He does his best, but he can't keep his eye on all of them. And he's just kind of going on and like showing you things. It's all quite boring.
Dr. Pendleton is just way back in her own head and just sort of like
exactly,
the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Indeed. I do think we're probably getting pretty close to wrapping up the day phase here. I know you were heading down to Limehouse, Ms. Byrne. I think you might. I think it might be fun to put you and Dryden together in the same place. Where might you all be ending up here?
When you were with Constable Lansing, were you near the Dog and Whistle, or were you like out in the street somewhere? Because he was just wandering his beat.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was just on the streets. Yeah.
Yeah. But it could be near the Dog and Whistle if that's convenient. We could, right?
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, all the stuff is pretty close by. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, like, you've like probably just parted from Constable Lansing, and then you look like you're about ready to like head to the Dog and Whistle.
Cool.
And then I could just, like come out from the cab from there.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I don't think I want to do any investigation scenes. I think I just want to see the two of you kind of like, I don't know, maybe like running into a dead end and deciding to just spend the rest of the day at the Dog and Whistle. What does that look like?
So I think that when she comes out of the cab,
You have a lot to talk about, right?
Oh yes.
I mean,
but one of the things that she's done is that, like, she wears her usual, like, plain dress, but then she's got her shawl around her shoulders, but she also has like another shawl or scarf like wrapped around her neck. And I think, like, without really looking, but you're still trying to look, you're noticing that. And you look a question in your eyes, and then Helena will deal immediately with that. And it's like, I hope this isn't a bit uncomfortable. Having, well, been the middleman, I guess, dealing with Julius.
I think, like, while you were entering, he ordered 2 dark beers because someone told him that was good for blood loss. And so he like pushes one over to you, and he says, I think he just nods like, no, it wasn't strange for me at all, Ms. Byrne. I trust that you know what's right when you're dealing with creatures of that sort.
She'll take a hearty draft of it, and then when she takes the beer away, and then, like, you see the big foam like mustache on her.
Yeah, she'll hand her a
face.
napkin.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And she dabs it off. Sometimes in dealing with these persons, I'm not going to say creatures because, well, there's so much variance in that. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more intimate than expected. Hopefully you won't have to deal with that in your investigations.
Yeah, I think he just smiles and says, I hope not. I have not been as well trained in dealing with nocturnal creatures as you have.
Oh, I wasn't just talking about nocturnal creatures, love. I mean, I'd imagine that you would see all walks of life in terms of trying to find out information. And that means, well, possibly people that walk the night, not necessarily of the night.
Yeah, he humphs and is very uncomfortable and kind of like laughs uncomfortably and then tries to say something, but it comes out as just like a harumphy thing. And of course.
Do you ever let your hair down, love?
He drinks.
Is it possible?
Of course I let my hair down. I have, yes, I'm well dealt with in that regard. Thank you, Ms. Byrne. With my hair and its elevation.
You may get along in this business a little bit easier if you just relax. loosen the cravat of it.
Yeah, I think you see that he hears that and says, "I will keep that in mind moving forward. Thank you, Miss Byrne."
Very welcome. And she raises her mug
Yep.
and then
Little clink.
clinks it with yours. Yep.
That'll conclude the day phase. Let's go take a look at our next little phase here. We're in the dusk. And the first thing we're going to do is find you all back at Hargrave House. And we're going to do a little paint the scene question to explore Hargrave House. And I think we're going to do... let's do the conservatory. And here, this is conservatory, like a glass enclosure that looks out to the garden, right? A former hunter in residence, not Julius, turned out to be the legendary killer known as Roger the Reaver. The conservatory was his favorite room in Hargrave House. Looking around, how do you know Roger the Reaver loved this space?
I've got an idea. I feel like Reaver has a like there's something nautical about it, right? Like it's, some kind of like he's has some kind of piratical background, or maybe even dating back to Vikings or something. And I think there are nautical mementos in this room, and we had mentioned that Dryden has a sailor background, and so yeah, I think Roger, I think Roger's nautical background, like signs of Roger's nautical background, are all over the place here. Maybe like mementos from ports he's been, or paintings of tattoos that he was fond of, stuff like that.
I love it. Good. Amanda, Mads?
One of the more spectacular planters in this conservatory has one of those big flowers that smell like corpses when they bloom.
Yeah.
And it was Roger's favorite flower, of course.
It's because it smells like bodies.
Because it smells like bodies. He's not very original. In fact, he was so unoriginal, he carved his name into the planter, and it's just carved with a knife, and it just says Roger.
Mm.
I think also he had a tendency to do a mark. I mean, if he didn't sign his name, then he was going to do a mark. And for some reason, it's like I pictured that the mark looked like a scythe. And then if you're looking around the room of the conservatory, the way things are situated and the way things are placed, like, even from above, like some hanging planters or what have you, you see a distinct shadow as if you're looking at the shadow of a scythe through the room.
Nice. I love it. Maybe he was Roger the Reaper as well, right? Good. Well, it is time to answer a question. So let's go ahead and take a look at our clues. You wouldn't have to. If this is an ongoing campaign, you could choose to answer the question or not. But since this is the end of this one, we're going to go ahead and answer the question. You have currently 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 6 clues, which is actually, no, maybe even more. No, 6. You have 6 clues, an excellent number of clues if you can work them all in on a complexity 4. The question is, where is the vampire's nest? And the clues are, we know that Zhao Donghai, the Chinese sailor, was killed in a really, really messy way behind the dog and whistle. We know that there might be a subterranean connection to the lurker because of Helena's tarot card reading. We have the burned outline of a broken dagger appearing in the journal. What a strange detail that is. A thick swarm of bats is found over the subway tunnels being dug in Limehouse, or near Limehouse. The story of Noah and the Ark has been ripped out of people's Bibles in the neighborhood, and there is blood dripping from the rafters in the Limehouse school. You may not be able to use all of these clues to answer the question. They are quite varied, but maybe you can.
I'm just going to brainstorm a bit here. So, I mean, I feel like I know we were questioning this clue last time because of the difference between Soft Jimmy, Charla Bell, and then Zhao Donghai. And then Zhao Donghai was killed in a messy way. That kind of like peripherally leads back to the other clue that we used for the other question, which is like things divisible by 3 have the third thing missing. So this is kind of like, you know, he was the third kill, and so therefore he was killed in a messy way. So it wasn't quite.
Oh,
like,
so it breaks the pattern.
It breaks the pattern, right? So it kind of
that's intriguing.
yeah. And then like, you know, with the spilled blood underground and then the tube tunnel bats. I mean, I just think that kind of like maybe following them leads to where he settled this blood that he would, you know, take his victims for, like, I guess a blood sacrifice, which leads to the broken dagger. And then I mean, the 2 things that I can't quite tie in are the Noah and the Ark story torn out, and then the blood dripping from the rafters. So
those are the 2 hard ones. Yeah.
I've got a theory about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, and it's been a long time since I went to like Catholic school, so I don't know the order of operations here. Order of operations, history, whatever. Sorry, my brain thinks in math. I think, what if Julia said that this vampire is very old? What if this vampire is so old that when the flood tore through the world and Noah and his family survived and nobody else did, maybe somehow that's this vampire survived that flood and has a real hate on for Noah for it, because he's so old. And perhaps part of that hate on involves, hate on is a very complex word, I suppose, having his nest.
That's what they would say in the Victorian era.
In Victorian times, yes. The Victorian version of hate on. Perhaps he part of this involves forming his nest in the remains of churches and hallowed ground. If there is in fact subways being built, the land above has to be cleared somehow. If there was, for example, an old church behind the Dog and Whistle that was, you know, really old, easily enough burn it to the ground, maybe salvage some wood to go and support the rafters in old schools.
That's intriguing. Yeah.
Tear that down, and underneath the ruins of this church, in what would have been hollow ground that the vampire now can hang out in, that's where he's built his nest.
And he might be so old he doesn't care. Like, it's not like that doesn't follow the same rules as everybody. Well, others of his kind, you know. So
I'm intrigued by the idea of the dagger having a ritualistic significance. I think that's an intriguing idea. It makes me wonder, like, if the vampire does take the victim somewhere and does something and then puts them back. Like, that's because the bodies were found in specific places.
Right. I mean, like, you know, could conceivably there's something special that because he's so old, or, you know, the ritual, whatever ritual he's following is what's enabling him to be this old, like have survived so long. I mean, it's not just the usual vampire drink blood and then just keep going, rinse and repeat. There's something ritualistic going on where he has, as Julius had said, as a peripheral clue, like this whole idea that he's protecting himself. He can get into every other vampire's head, but they can't get into his. They can't find him.
I think it's intriguing that we're saying that the vampire was around during the flood and he's killed a sailor. He's hung around in like a place where like sea people are. And it's also intriguing that like if his nest is underground, if it is in the two tunnels being dug or thereabouts, it's intriguing that he would be in such a place considering he is presumably still has some trauma from like drowning, right? And people drowning around him. Like that's interesting to me that you would choose to like willingly be underground like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Strange. Or possibly it's not. Maybe that's why he's not underground. I don't know. These are all things in my head right now as you're all talking. But yeah, Judd, do you have any thoughts about this? We're just brainstorming right now.
Yeah. I love the idea of incorporate like the Noah's flood and I mean it could be that the place where he was safe from flooding until they started building the tunnel.
That's interesting. Oh, he was underground and he had to get out.
Right.
Oh, that's intriguing.
Because water started to pour in and he kind of freaked out.
That's really interesting actually, because that might explain the blood in the rafters.
Yeah.
Maybe he's gone to high ground.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's intriguing.
Yeah, maybe he was underground and he has now gone to the upper space, the attic space or something in this Limehouse school in order to get away from...
And even if he's just recently changed habitation, it might still be that the bats are hanging around down there, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where he was, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's
because he's recently moved his location up to the rafters of the attic space of the Limehouse school, maybe that's why he hasn't had a chance to really prepare the space, like where he's doing some ritualistic stuff, and that's why we see the blood dripping down. So
Intriguing.
I mean, he's doing it there now.
Let's take a look at these clues. Okay. The Zhao Donghai being killed in a messy way, I love the idea that it has to do with this like idea of breaking patterns. I don't know that it speaks to the location of the nest necessarily.
Right. That's fine.
Even though I think it's an interesting point. The spilled blood underground on the tarot card, that I think just probably speaks to the significance of like the underground space to the Limehouse Lurker. That feels good to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the dagger yet. The bats makes sense as we've described it. The story of Noah being the kind of the trauma of like water, and then the rafters kind of basically being the answer. Like the reason why he's moved up to the high spaces is because he feels chased out of where he has presumably been for centuries, right? Underground, killing with relative impunity because no one's goes down there, right? And now suddenly lots of people are down there, right? And making the space unsafe for him. That's 4 clues. I'm curious about the ritual aspect. That's the part that is intriguing, but I don't think it's explained yet, and how it implicates the location. Same with Zhao Donghai being killed in a messy way. That may not. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it does tie back again to all that Noah aspect in the flood. If the vampire didn't expect the subway to start, like, or his place underground lair to start flooding, he may have panicked a little bit when it started happening, and in order to move his lair quickly, he needs a quick lunch, very quick lunch, and a poor sailor is
he
just
made a
the
mess
sloppy,
of it. Yeah, made a mess of it.
meal.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that. That's good. In his haste. Yeah,
Yes.
in his haste. That's pretty good.
And perhaps the reason that he chose that location in the first place is because of its ritualistic significance. Why? That's a good question.
I do like the idea, though, that like in his rush to find a new habitation, a new nest, the Zhao Donghai was killed fast and dirty in his rush. But then once he settled in, he had the more quieter kills, with Charla and Soft Jimmy. Soft Jimmy is, I mean, nobody in the opium den except Jenny Johnston was even aware of it, right? That's how good it was and how clean it was. So yeah, it's intriguing because we don't know the order that they were killed in. Like
True.
that's So
Maybe the burned outline of the broken dagger isn't actually about the location. Maybe it's about how to destroy the vampire.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because
yeah,
I mean, that's what Julius wanted us to do.
yeah.
And it was his spooky journal that burned up.
I'll let it count since it leads to the resolution of like how do we destroy the vampire.
Right.
So you're saying that like you have to do something special to kill this vampire, basically, right? Yeah, that's intriguing. Like like a regular old stake to the heart won't do it. Yeah. I like that a lot. I feel pretty good about this. Basically, it sounds like the creature's hiding in the rafters of the Limehouse School or in the upper spaces of it. It used to be down below, but it got chased off by the newly dug tunnels that are they're going in everywhere all over the city.
Gentrification.
Yes, indeed. And the reason why this is unacceptable to him is because he has trauma from the flood. I love that. I think it's really good, actually. Like he's going to high ground, that's intriguing. That's 6 clues, if everyone agrees to this. And that's a +2 on the roll. Whoever wants to roll it, take it away.
I can roll. Do we want me to roll? Mads, I see your face.
I don't know. I mean, like, or do we want to do like a split? Like you do one die.
Okay, I'll roll one.
Okay.
Somebody else roll the other. That way, if I roll really bad, it's not up to me necessarily.
It's shared.
Oh,
sharing is caring, as Julia said.
I rolled a 1.
A 1.
Oh, no pressure. Here we go.
A 2. Great.
Yay!
That's a 5. The answer is wrong, and I will react, meaning the lurker will make your lives hell this night phase. Unless you all want to mark Janus Mask, you can bump it up to a 7.
I vote mask.
I vote mask.
Yeah, we mask it.
Everybody marks Janus Mask. Go ahead and do that.
I'm really glad this is a 2-shot.
Yeah, no, me too.
And so now it's a 7 to 9. You are correct, but the complication. So basically, on a 7 to 9, the resolution is hard. So you're going to be able to do it, but he's going to fight you every step of the way. It's going to be a tough fight. So that is that's what's going on. Let's go around the table. Is everyone heading to the Limehouse School at night now that you have the keys to like deal with the vampires? Is that the plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, if anybody wants to do their Janus Mask prompts, they can, or you can wait till the dawn. It's up to you.
Let's see. Probably want to wait.
I can do mine that way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Unless we wanted to wait so that we could take a little break sooner.
Yeah, maybe let's wait so we can take a break sooner. I think that might be better.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and introduce the unseen then. Tonight's unseen is going to be... I mean, I love Madame Morvain's. I feel like it's probably not the most like thematically appropriate for this night phase, but I like it too much not to do it. So this is on row... it's the last one in the first row, if you all want to follow along on that tab. Madame Morvain's Boy Tour. Powdered princelings and delightful demigods, all agape for your amusement. Madame Morvain's famous guidebook is a walking tour of all the best male sex workers in London. Ship Captain Jackson Flint Broadmoor has just come in for a 3-day port of call, the well-worn guidebook clutched beneath his arm. And this was a real thing in Victorian times. Like, they had these, like, just guidebooks, and you take them and do your little tour. We have 4 prompts here. I'm going to do the first one. And Judd, you can do the second one. Mads, you can do the third one. Amanda, you can have the grim one. We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, our last break, and then we'll come back and do the night phase, our last night phase, where you will hopefully defeat the lurker. So Taylor, we're going to take a break. We are back. I will remind you all during the night phase, your character's goal right now is to deal with the Limehouse Lurker in whatever way you see fit. Your player goal is to draw visual or thematic connections between the night phase, your hunter scenes, and the unseen. And speaking of the unseen, our first stop in Madame Morvaine's boy tour is Prince Louis, powdered, soft, covered in yards of satin and lace. He invites Captain Broadmoor into his boudoir. And I'm supposed to describe what distinctly feminine touches we see in Prince Louis's room. I think that there's a little table with a mirror, a vanity. I think that there's a screen, like a sort of a screen that's like painted with pastoral scenes, and draped over the screen are long silk opera gloves, and maybe even like a woman's gown draped over the screen. But right now, Prince Louis is dressed he has on like a Marie Antoinette sort of wig and silk stockings and nothing else. And he is basically standing over Captain Broadmoor, who, spending all of his days being in charge on his ship, likes to give up control when he's enjoying himself in port. And Prince Louis just kind of like steps on Captain Broadmoor and smiles. And we cut over to the Limehouse School. It's nighttime. You're all entering into... You have access to the building at night per your arrangement with Mr. Chesterfield. Are you trying to be really quiet about this so you don't wake the children? Or... I'm just curious about the entrance here. How do you all look? What are you all doing?
I don't think Dr. Pendleton's being that quiet. She's not much for sneaking around. I don't know if any of us are.
No, in fact, I mean, I don't know who's necessarily going first, but I mean, Helena's definitely on the go. She's got her herb bag like at her side in her belt, and then she's taking out one of her silver hairpins, and this time she is doing like as full of a ritual as she possibly can on the go, where she jabs the hairpin into her palm, letting the blood well up. She's sprinkling the salt and the herbs, and then taking a match or whatever, and then lighting it, and then letting that smoke and the energy build to, let's see, I think she's going to try and trap, to at least keep the lurker here.
Intriguing.
So, yeah.
What preparations have you made, Dryden?
We had established that the one case he had was a vampire hunting kit. So he's got that under his arm, and then I think he's got like a lantern in the other hand, and he's looking around trying to figure out like, when do I open this thing and like get the things, like, I think this is probably his first vampire hunt, and he's just trying to figure out like, when do I open this thing, and is it even going to be useful? as old as this thing is.
Any element of surprise you might have been trying to have is ruined when you hear a voice behind you that says, "Come out, you little ancient blood-sucking bastard. Hargrave House is here. We have come to dispose of you." Julius is with you. And you hear scatter, kind of the lurker is alert. You hear him moving around up there. Let's go to Madame Morvain's. Judd, the next stop is Anthony the Adonis, whose body is rubbed with golden powder. How do we know Anthony is how do we know Anthony is dying of consumption?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony the Adonis, he does not look like what people imagine as someone who's dying of consumption. And I think, his colleagues are rubbing his body with golden powder, and he's just muscle upon muscle, as his name would illustrate. And I think at one point during like the making him up for Captain Broadmoor's session, he says, "Should I put a little rouge on my lips?" And like he's covered in gold powder, or he says like, "Should I put some rouge on my lips, or is that too much?" And they're like, "No, don't put rouge on your lips." And I think when he's with the captain, like the captain closes in for a kiss and says, "I like the rouge on your lips," and we know that it's blood from the consumption, right? He didn't put any.
Fabulous. Well, the jig is up. Kids are the ones that stay there at night. They are coming in from wherever they sleep and stay, bleary-eyed. You see lanterns bobbing around in the darkness as they get lit. The lurker is crawling around upstairs or up in the rafters. There are some stairs that go up to that part of the building, and you're doing a ritual. This is to hold the vampire in place or bring him to you.
Hold on. I think what she's going to do is, as she's seeing the kids file in or start to stream in, she's going to wink at the nearest one and say, "Get ready for a show." And then she will, her palms are already aflame, but then the flames turn into crackling electricity, and then she's going to point it up at the rafters, and then a bolt, bolts start shooting up into the rafters, creating this kind of cage effect that will creep up into the attic space. And then you can see a glow coming from that space as if it's creating a cage up there.
Oh, that's intriguing. Let's do the roll. Let's see how it goes.
Hopefully it goes.
Rights of Salt and Smoke. You go ahead and just roll with sensitivity. See how it goes.
Yep. Okay. Ooh, yes. All right. That's a 10.
Nice, good. Your effect is working. We'll come back to that though. I am going to say that Dr. Pendleton, here in the workhouse, part of the space is actually made up as kind of a sick ward. And they have not just kids, there are some adults in the sick ward. And there's one particularly bedraggled looking woman who kind of she says, "Ugh, what's going on out there?" And you see her. You're the only one who sees her.
Is there a curtain or some sort of separation between this and the other room?
There can be, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna walk into the little sick area and just sort of survey the bait. in case we need some.
The woman is there, and she says, "You're a doctor. I could tell. I'm afraid it's probably too late for me."
Dr. Pendleton looks down at this woman who's got very clear blood on her lips and the
And
color
beautiful
of...
hands.
Ooh.
Ha!
I am, in fact, a doctor. You're very astute. And I've come to help you. Here. And Dr. Pendleton reaches into her bag and pulls out one of her cleansing tonics. This one's very cleansing. Drink this up. The whole thing.
Well, Dr. Pendleton's been waylaid for the time being. Actually, give me 1 second.
Julius, man. Fucking Julius.
So Julius is
Speaking of which,
walking with you, Dryden. You know, Dr. Pendleton's gone off, and Ms. Byrne is doing her thing, and you see the crackle. And Julius says, "Oh, what a pair of remarkable women they are."
yes.
Do you enjoy your life of service, Dryden? Is this what you foresaw for yourself?
It is, as with most pivots of my life, it was a surprise, but it is a welcome one.
Intriguing.
Did you always think that you would be an unholy beast with pretty blonde hair?
Oh, yes, I think so. How would you feel if I told you I killed far more people in life than I ever have in my unlife?
That would not surprise me, Julius. What did you do? What did you do in life?
Oh, you know. Oh, I was involved in some military campaigns and conquering various barbarian tribes, you know, as one does. We don't do much of that anymore these days, conquering barbarians, do we? And he's sort of like doing all this stuff. And you can tell he's like looking at like some of the residents of the workhouse, people who are there. Maybe there's like a nighttime like nurse person who's like there, who's like kind of been roused by his yelling. And you can tell he's like scoping out dinner. He says, "It's going to be so nice to not have any competition in the neighborhood anymore." Back to Madame Morvain's. Mads, Gianni, an Italian temple is next. Olive-skinned, breathtaking. How do we know Gianni is having the time of his life?
When Captain Broadmoor beholds Johnny is wearing the merest slip of a brilliant blue toga, and when Johnny sees Captain Broadmoor, Johnny will whip off the toga, like reaching for the rafters, like flinging it up in a crackle of fabric and energy, and he will say, "Yes, no competition here." And then Captain Broadmoor will gasp with delight and say, "Oh, what an unholy beast you are, and such pretty blonde hair." And they go at it.
So the creature is trapped. And You can go up to the upper level to where he's at. Julius will go with you, Ms. Byrne. Do you go with them, Dryden?
Yeah, I totally do.
You're all up there, and you see the lurker for the first time. He is looking around, up and down. He's testing the boundaries of this magical trap. And every time he kind of gets a little close, there's like a shock, you know? And he looks at you both, or all three of you really. He first looks at Julius. And he speaks a language that none of you recognize. It's a language that maybe no one has even spoken in who knows how long. And it's also a language, his voice has almost like a strange ritualistic quality. It's like he only knows how to talk in portent, you know, not like a normal person. Coming out of this small body, he just fixes Julius with this like terrible gaze and just kind of like mutters. And Julius like gets this like terrified look on his face, and you can see him wasting away. His skin is just like shriveling up like paper, and he's like, "Do it quick, destroy the thing." What do you all do?
So I think Dryden starts reciting lines he's memorized from the book from the book of Genesis about Noah. And the Lord said, "I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." And like, you know, he just goes through that story in St. James. I have a website. I do not have that memorized, folks, if that's not clear.
I love it. No, I love it. This is the night move. Sounds like what you're trying to do is you're trying to basically destroy the creature with like literally the word of God here, or at least hold it in abeyance. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that it's going to become clear that I don't believe in any of the I think the Bible is nonsense, and yeah, I don't believe in it.
It's worse than that. He will turn those words against you.
Nice.
Because he was there when the magic was first made.
Right.
This is going to be a night move with sensitivity. Go ahead and roll sensitivity.
I've got some sensitivity. Great. Cool. 8.
It's going to work.
Okay.
The complication is going to be not before he destroys Julius. If you're okay with that, let it ride. Otherwise,
I am okay with that.
Very good.
Shit.
Meanwhile, back at Dr. Pendleton, this dying woman says, "I don't know what you gave me, doctor, but I feel, well, this is the best I've felt in a long time. I am beautifully numb." It goes into a, like kind of out of it,
Yeah.
What do you do?
I reach into my pack and I pull out a different kind of item. In this case, it is a syringe, and she's feeling great. This is a blessing. Her death would be very painful otherwise.
Indeed.
And then I take out a knife, a large one.
Our final stop at Madame Morvaine's, Amanda. Thomas, a rather plain young man, barely a man, really, who is clean and able. How do we know Thomas is doing this out of desperation?
Thomas is watching the goings on at Madame Morvaine's boy tour, watching the situation with Captain Broadmoor pretty uncomfortably. This is probably the first time he's seen anything like this, and he's fidgeting. He doesn't really know what to do with his hands. He doesn't really know what to do at all. Some of the other young men are, encouraging him and being very kind, but he's just out of his element. Strangely, there's a smell about Thomas that some of the young men in this place know it is the smell of workhouse soap. He has recently been staying at one of the workhouses, which are infamous for being horrible, terrible places for people to stay, even when they are in poverty and desperate. You can also see that his clothing has little bites out of the cuffs of his pants. They're probably the nicest trousers that he owns, but there's been rats nibbling on them, indicating that he's probably been sleeping on the streets for a while. Thomas reaches into his pocket and gives a small item in there, a small locket, a squeeze. It's a locket that holds pictures of his family that he is trying to support. And he thinks back to the places that he's been, the places that he's stayed, and takes a deep breath and looks around at the finery here, the kind smiles, the kind people, and turns his best smile towards Captain Broadmoor.
Julius bursts into flames. The only thing not burning is his blonde hair, which sort of like a ribbon waves in the air as his burning body falls down the rafters onto the ground. Ms. Byrne, Dryden is onto something with the Bible verse. It's going to work. It will destroy the creature. You just need to give it a push. Arcane speaking. What do you do?
It's going to be kind of a weird contrast move to do this, but I mean, I think the entities are ironically happy to do so, just because of like who we're up against. So I do a compounding of the ritual that I had. So the flames were dying out, but then I do a reignite. So I do another jab into my palm, let the blood well up again, take out some more. Well, has Julius completely burned away by this point?
He's done for, yeah.
Okay. So actually what she does is, like, on the spur of a moment, she's going to scoop up his ashes and then put that on top of the herbs and the salt and then light that.
Nice.
And then it creates a stronger hold of the energy and crackling from her palm.
This speeds the words on their way. Dryden, go ahead and describe how this destroys the lurker. What does it look like when the lurker is destroyed?
I think it's like its lungs fill up with seawater, and it drowns, and like murky, ocean water, and it starts to like cough it up, and then it just kind of like, and then like it starts to disintegrate, but not disintegrate in like a fire way, but disintegrate like it's been in the water and it's just being eaten away by the ocean and the salt.
Dr. Pendleton, this woman has bled out, dead. You are holding her hands in yours. They are dripping from the stump. Holding the hands, what memory of the one you lost does it provoke?
Dr. Pendleton, looking down at these hands, they're surprisingly very clean for somebody who is so sick. And she remembers watching the hands of Millicent, Dr. Morrison, writing long letters in a study in a library, writing notes, and she would just watch for hours as Dr. Morrison would, in her loopy, beautiful writing with the big black quill, she would watch and watch and watch, not saying a word, just watching.
That concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. Now, normally you would collect rewards whenever you resolve a threat. Rewards are like things to add to your personal quarters. Sometimes you get special moves. You get like all kinds of things. I'll just read what the rewards are. We're not going to bother with it because this is the last session, but Jenny Johnston could become a recurring side character that gives you extra clues whenever you seek her counsel about East London. The Man in the Sun Mask can become a recurring side character who gives you extra clues when you ask about other worlds. If you didn't kill the vampire becomes a recurring side character. Or you can just find other mementos. So you would do that normally if this was going to be continued. Dawn questions. I think I want to mostly just, in the interest of time, I want to just focus on the echoes in the night. It seemed like everyone got an echo in the night. I feel like you did. I noted the blood red lips from Dryden, the several things with Ms. Byrne. What about you, Dr. Pendleton?
The woman dying of consumption.
That's right. Yeah. So that was all really good. But yeah, we'd go through the dawn questions, and I think everybody would pick up enough to make an advancement. And then we would do playbook moves that need to be resolved if there were any. But what we are going to do is Janus Mask. So those of you who have Janus Mask, this is kind of like a sort of little epilogue for your character in a way, because this is the last time we're going to see them. So whoever wants to do something, say something.
I can start.
Okay, go ahead.
I get to narrate a flashback to the happiest day you shared with the person you lost, and narrate a flashback to the time you had a terrible fight with the person you lost. Plus, I'm going to give a little bit other background, just a little bit tidbits on what happened with Dr. Pendleton in her background, so that it's not such an open-ended thing. We see Dr. Pendleton burst into an office. It is the office door says Dr. Morrison on it, grief counselor, and she is just ecstatic. Millicent, I've done it! I've done it! I've done it! I figured it out. I know how to do it. I can bring it back. I can do it. And Dr. Morrison looks up from her writing desk and looks at Dr. Pendleton and says, Dr. Pendleton, how many times have I told you I was your grief counselor for a few weeks? You don't have the right to come in here and speak to me whenever you wish. You need to go. You need to leave. You need to stop writing me letters. You need to stop watching me when I'm doing things and studying and researching. And Dr. Pendleton just waves her off and says, come with me now. It's so important. And Dr. Morrison heaves a sigh and follows her. We cut to a lab. Much cleaner, much nicer lab than the one we see in Hargrave House. And there is a body on a bed or on a hospital cart covered in a sheet. Dr. Pendleton stands over it, just vibrating with excitement. You'll see, Millicent, you'll see. And Dr. Morrison heaves a big sigh and says, very well, show me what you want to show me. And of course, the sheet comes off, and we see a horrendous being sewn together of various body parts. Its eyes open, different colored eyes, and they're glazed over. And as Dr. Morrison takes in this shocking sight, the eyes of the creature turn to look at her. And Dr. Pendleton is ecstatic. This is the happiest moment, and she's so happy to share it with the person she loves. Dr. Morrison looks on in horror and looks up at Dr. Pendleton, shaking her head. No, no, this is an abomination. You can't do this. And she spins towards the wall where there is a fire safety axe, and it takes no more than a few moments to destroy Dr. Pendleton's work. Dr. Pendleton doesn't remember what happens next. Just the horrible screaming and shouting, the fight, and having the axe in her own hands. And then having Dr. Morrison's brain in her hands. And that's really all. That's really all Dr. Pendleton remembers before being at the funeral, then being at the police constable's office, and then being at the hospital that she was locked away in for so many years. But she does know that she will bring her love back. She still has the brain. Dryden's looking after it. He'll take good care of it.
Indeed, indeed. Who would like to go next?
I guess I can.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Yeah.
So, two I have is narrate a flashback to your young adulthood that shows your first sexual encounter with a dark entity, and narrate a flashback to your young adulthood that shows a time when you and your supernatural affinities, when you used your supernatural affinities for selfish purposes. Yeah, I think I can combine the two for sure. So, I think after all of this is going on, and then Helena is reviewing the events of the evening back home at Hargrave House. She's patting the pouch that she has scooped up the rest of Julius's ashes, and also taken like some locks of his hair that were left. And she smiles to herself because there's still some residual blood and some of those herbs still sticking to her palm. And then she kind of caresses them as she's examining the dried blood. And then she's thinking back to the first time that it had happened, and this was by accident. And she's remembering where she had pierced her palm. And I remember where the blood was welling, and then blackened fingers closed over my palm from behind me, and then a hand would come across my face and then stroke my hair. And then I was out in this field again, and then seeing the storms come, the dark clouds descending close and fast. And I remember the feeling of the moisture and the clouds surrounding me, in my clothes, under my clothes, and the feelings of the damp and the moist, and the touch, the electrics, the energy coursing through and over my body. And as this was happening, I could see some of the village girls that didn't like me for some reason. They would throw stones when I would pass. And in this moment, I realized that I could control some of this power. And as the electricity was running through me and over me and around me, there would be a few surreptitious bolts that would come down from the sky and hit a little too close to some of those nasty village girls. Some of them survived. Some of them.
Fabulous, thank you. Dryden?
Yeah, Dryden goes up. He's in the place where they face down Limehouse Lurker, and he has a dust pan and a broom, and he goes up to Julius's remains, and I think he like squats down and says, "I guess," and like I think it's just him and the remains. He says, "I guess neither of us really ended up where we thought we were going to go, Julius." And I sweep him up and I say, "I didn't like you, but you were a hunter of Hargrave House, and so you'll be interred there. You deserve it." And like puts him in like a bag, like just like, I mean, it's there's nothing noble about the way he is moving him. And as I think he like looks at we see we flash back to a time in his young adulthood when, you know, before he was a servant, that shows what a charmed life he lived. And you see him at like a family pub with his family all around him, and he's just gotten back from being in the Navy, and he's still wearing you know, a sailor's jacket, but he's wearing civilian clothes, and he just looks so young and full of, you know, I don't know, hope and life, and it just doesn't look anything like he looks now. And you know, it's just a big raucous family meal, and everyone is laughing and talking, and you know, someone says to him, "Now that you're back, you know, from being a war hero, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for work?" And he says, "Well, there's a Dr. Pendleton hiring, and I think I'm going to go interview." And like someone says, like maybe his mother is like, "That job description was vague. Like, does she need a manservant or a lab assistant? Like, I don't understand what it is you're signing up for." And he says, "That's the way things are now, Mom. And if I don't like it, I can always walk away." And that is his tragic, terrible flashback. And then, yeah, I think he like thinks about that, and then, you know, picks up Julius's remains and kind of takes a few brisk steps to catch up to the ladies as we all head back to Hargrave House.
Fantastic. Let's do stars and wishes while we have a few minutes here. Stars, of course, are things we enjoyed about not just tonight, but also the whole thing. And wishes, I don't know, wishes, I guess, in this context are just maybe things you would like to know about the ongoing story if we were to do it. It's okay not to have any wishes also. I will start though. Stars, I had a really good time. This was a great little two-shot. We got so much story in, we got so much story done. And even though we're not going to get to see these hunters again, I actually feel like we got a lot here. Like, I feel like I know a lot about these characters, and it felt like a nice, complete story. So I'm really happy with it. Star, for the final confrontation with the Lurker was amazing. Just so many good moments, so many cool, like the Bible thing was super smart and cool. I like that you trapped it in the beginning. I like the two of you working together to destroy the Lurker. That was really good. I love that Dr. Pendleton, in her psychopathy, decided to not go deal with the vampire and instead go cut off a dying woman's hands. Yeah, other stars. I really love Dr. Pendleton. There is Amanda, you just played this character who's just completely, utterly mad, but like it's constrained, you know, like, but whenever we look underneath and we see what's underneath, it's like, ooh, it's a lot, you know. So it's really good. I would have loved to continue seeing that character. Oh, I think we lost Judd. And I really loved everyone did a great job with Janus Mask. Mads, I always love your Janus Mask narrations. Like, I created the Janus Mask as it's like a tool for people who like to to do their homework and look ahead and think about their character and do awesome, amazing things with their backstory, who like to plan and prepare. And I love you come to the table like ready to tell story. And I really, really love that. It's always so fun to watch. And Judd, I thought you did great. I mean, I really love Dryden. It's so funny, so many funny moments. I laugh so much with Dryden. Like Dryden was just the perfect like counterpoint to these other two characters, and it was just really, really fun to watch. So thank you all so much, and Star to Taylor for managing us so well for the stream. So.
Some quick stars for Judd. Amazing. I love Dryden. I love him. He's so much fun. Playing that straight character, like against the weirdness that was happening in Hargrave House, beautiful. All the interactions with Julius, loved it. Perfect. I really loved how full into her dark side Helena was, just head on diving right into it. Just perfect. I really like playing Dr. Pendleton. She's a lot of fun, despite the fact that she's real weird. But that's what makes it fun. Jason, your descriptions, of course, are always so great. I really loved everything about. I mean, I always loved Julius, but he was so much fun in this two shot. I just wanted to see what happened every couple of minutes. It was wonderful. The only wish I have, I guess, I wish I could find out what happens with Brathwaite and Pendleton, because I feel like that would probably go down a little bit sour. But that's left up to our imaginations.
Oh, before we go on, I have a star also for I really love the sexiness and the eroticism of this session. It's really, really good. It's a thing I designed this game to do, and not every group leans into it, but I thought we really did this time, and it was very like gothic, sexy, and I was super into it. So
You said Madame Morvain's wasn't necessarily like, thematically,
it turns out it
appropriate.
is.
Yeah. I was like, no, it worked out wonderfully. It's like, so it was like so good for having that as the unseen. So stars to Amanda. I mean, I've played with Amanda like, lots of times in our regular between game and in other games. And I always love how you bring the twists and turns that you're like, okay, here's the character, weird, whimsical, whatever, but it's so deep and sinister and twisted and just wonderful. I mean, like, bring it, keep bringing it, because it's beautiful. And Judd, oh my God, Dryden, love Dryden. I mean, if I could like, pop my heart like, several million times like to say how much Dryden is hilarious, wonderful, and so straight compared to both of us in this group. It just makes it like a brilliant trio, I think. It's just everything that Dryden has done has been wonderful and smart and just hilarious. I just don't know how else to put it.
Thank you.
And Jason, I mean, again, the design of this game is amazing, because no matter how many times that we play through this particular threat, the mystery, the playability is always changes. It's never the same. Even when I'm running this, like, a couple of times, not the same either. So, I mean, again, the playability of this game is its highest reward and standard. I mean, it's just wonderful. I mean, like, besides some of the other mechanics like the unseen and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, your characters, your game, and you present it so well, and you're also able to teach it at the same time, which is also a skill in itself, and you do it so well. Everything comes alive, and again, would love to keep playing this, and definitely want to keep bringing out more of these characters. I mean, hopefully we have a season 3 and I can bring out Helena. So that's my wish if we were going to do this. So yeah, had an amazing time for this 2-shot. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. My star goes to Jason. Your pacing is unreal. I wanted to I might end up watching all of this and then just like posting clips of it, just being like, look what he does right here. Like, watch these 30 seconds.
Please do that. I wish it's the kind of thing I never like take the time to do, but I think people might like. So
yeah, I will try. Particularly in both in both sessions, they were great. I feel like in the first session, it will be easier because you were doing these kind of gentle spirals and there's like a structure to it. But yeah, it's really amazing. The things that you, the way that you jam is really special. And it was cool to be a part of that. Thank you for asking me. So awesome.
Thank you. Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but like, I really love hearing that coming from you because I admire you so much as like a person in the hobby. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And great to meet Amanda and Mads and just make new friends in gaming, and people who when you were like, hey, these are the people we're meeting, and then I think we all shared our social media, and I was like, oh, who are these people? And I was like, oh, I'm following them already. Great. So that was cool. And it's just nice to meet new fun gamers. The way you both did Janus Mask stuff, like I almost jumped in ahead, like, and interrupted Mads.
It was next level. So
it's ridiculous. Like I almost interrupted Mads. Was like, no, I'm not following you. Nope, not doing it. So, but I was like, I'm not going to be rude. You go. You jumped in and that ahead of me. But yeah, the way you both not only played your characters with everyone, at the table, but then also like played into these monologues and made a scene that we got to see. It was really, really neat. I don't often see people who can do both. I see people who could do one and then are just like shitty at the other, but it's really cool to see people be able to do both. That was amazing. Amanda, big star for Dr. Pendleton's laugh. Like when I first heard it, I was like, why is she laughing like she's stupid? We know she's not stupid. And I was like, oh, that's not a stupid laugh. That's a different laugh. Like she is not well. That's what that laugh is from. And so, yeah, I didn't realize it until like the end of this session, like how unwell she was. And she's terrifying, which is cool. And yeah, Matt, I like how, I don't know, like earthy and down to earth, your character was, and Ms. Byrne, and she had a real fun human moment with Dryden, which was cool. And I don't know, I like how she went back and forth between being in this otherworldly realm and then being a very human person. It was really, really amazing. And your Janus Mask stuff was amazing. Really, really, really cool. Cool to see and fun to interact with. So yeah, thanks to everyone, and thank you HSC for having us here and letting us play this fun game. This was really fun, and it was great to meet everybody. It was great to get to game with Jason, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you all. Thank you, Taylor, for being behind the scenes.
Thank you, Taylor. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Well, that is our stream. Thank you all so much. Yeah, thanks so much to High Shelf Collective for having us. Our little guest appearance here on the stream. It was really, really fun. It was so fun to play this game that I wrote and love so much with such like high caliber players. Like we were all just giving each other so much good stuff to play with. And that's the kind of, to me, that's like the gaming. It's a height of gaming. I love it so much. So thank you for that. So yeah, we are good to go.